And the rut is on here in Iowa. That's a heck of a buck right there. Had that doe pinned up next to the highway. So currently, most of the crew is in Tennessee right now, knocking down a bunch of deer there and having a blast. And originally, I was gonna go to Tennessee as well, but since we had a full crew there, Mindy and Jake helped convince me that I should take advantage of the opportunity to head to South Dakota and meet up with my dad, my brother, and my cousin, who are doing a week-long bow hunt in the Black Hills. Going back to 2007, this is actually the first out-of-state hunting experience that I ever had, and I have my cousin Ryan to thank for that. He's the one that spearheaded this hunt and lined everything up, and his wife's aunt and uncle and their family own a bunch of land in and around the Black Hills. And they're not only generous enough to allow us to hunt their property, but they also give us a place to stay, make us home-cooked meals, and really make it feel like home. I mean, it's probably one of the most fun hunting experiences that I've ever had. And not only is it good hunting for whitetails, but there's mule deer, antelope, prairie dogs, predators, upland game, you name it. It's an incredibly game-rich area. You know, there's always something to be hunting, and the landscape itself is incredible as well. So a little bit about hunting South Dakota. As a non-resident, you can get a statewide archery tag that's good for either whitetail deer or mule deer, which is really cool to have that opportunity. However, a new regulation that's come about in the past couple years is that as a non-resident, if you don't apply for your archery deer permit before April 1st, then your license is only good for hunting private land. Legally, you cannot hunt public land or even private land that is open to public hunting. So that's the boat that I'm in right now. The other guys are going to focus on hunting the family's property. And since there's 4 of us, I want to help spread out the hunting pressure. So I'm going to spend the first day or 2 scouting and making phone calls and knocking on doors and trying to gain access on more private land, which we found in the past hasn't been real easy. Our success rate of getting permission on private land has been pretty low. But you know, that's part of the fun, it's part of the challenge, and just like hunting public land has its own challenges. Well, that was a no. Pretty much the story of the day. No, 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 no thank you. Have other hunters. My nephews are hunting, so on to the next one. We're in business. Nice. Well, that's cool. Just got permission on a pretty big chunk of ground. People I talked to were super nice. The property itself is about 1/3 cattle pasture, 1/3 alfalfa fields, and about 1/3 timber. And they actually do have other people that are hunting their property right now, but it sounds like they're sticking more towards the north end of the property and are hunting blinds on alfalfa fields, whereas I'm more interested in hunting deeper back in the timber. So it works out well. I just have to stay on the south end of the property, but I've been looking at the map on onX a little bit here, and there's already several things that stand out to me. There's a pond back in the middle of the property, and on a really dry year like it's been this year, that could be a killer spot. And there's also a couple really steep timber ridges and a big saddle that looks like a good spot where you can catch a buck cruising. And then also there's this little knob that's just off of those bigger ridges. It looks interesting. It looks like the kind of spot where a buck would bed that's just adjacent to these bigger patches of timber where there's probably family groups of does and fawns bedding. So I'm excited to learn the property and excited to see what a Black Hills whitetail rut is all about. Well, good morning. Bright and early here on the 3rd day of hunting. And so far the wind hasn't been exactly right to dive in to the deeper into the spots that I think that are going to be the best. But what I've been focusing on so far is this big long meadow kind of in the middle of the property. And then there's the water hole that's in the middle of all that. And the first day I kind of picked up on a pattern. A lot of the deer were moving through the same spot that ended up basically being around that water hole. And then yesterday I moved in a little bit deeper and took the decoy, got a little bit closer to that water hole and saw a bunch of deer. Pretty much were all doing the same thing. Then I actually had a couple nice bucks working their way down the center of that meadow. I thought I was going to get a shot at one of them. He saw the decoy and started coming into it, but he didn't fully commit. He wasn't super aggressive. And the buck eventually got directly behind me and left. Never saw him again. But I'm seeing a consistent pattern in where these deer are moving, and it pretty much all revolves around this water hole. And if the deer aren't directly going to it and drinking from it, they're funneling around it one way or the other. So I'm fired up for this hunt today. Honestly, I'd be surprised if I don't get some kind of opportunity, at least at a decent buck. I'm not saying like a giant buck, but I got a good feeling that you know, some kind of decent buck will come through there at some point today.
First visitors of the morning. I was thinking hard about shooting that doe, but it is dead calm this morning, and she was on edge. And even just the sound of moving my hand, pulling my release up and trying to get it clipped on was enough to make her look up. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge here until the day winds start to pick up. There's a good buck right there. He's kind of angling up away. Last I saw, and I lost track of him, but he could be coming down here. He would have had to make a pretty hard cut to the left for me to not to see him again. Just got a glimpse of him behind the pine tree. Just talking about how tough it was going to be to come to full draw on a deer right now and get it on video, and sure enough, I grunted that buck in, finally starting to see what I would consider some cruising activity. Definitely had heard the calling and was coming into it. He popped up and was looking hard. I mean, I knew it was going to be tough. And again, the thing is, if I wasn't trying to get it on video, probably would have killed that deer. I could have drawn back while he was still behind the pine tree and just held and waited until he got, he was 16, 17 yards. It is a personal goal of mine get the shot on video and to get as good a footage as I can. And sometimes that's going to come at the cost of a deer. I mean, if it was a really big buck, though, something that I, may not get an opportunity at again, then I would definitely just point the camera where I hope the deer's going to walk, and then just have to be okay with whatever the 360 camera gets. That was a cool encounter, though. Finally got to see what I would consider to be some cruising activity there, and was able to call that buck in. So hopefully that's a sign of more things to come. It's very possible at some point I could get another opportunity with that deer, assuming that's the same one. It looked very similar to that buck that I had coming into the decoy the other day. And if it is, he's essentially done the same thing 2 days in a row now. That was absolutely perfect. That was cool. Finally starting to see a little bit more buck activity, cruising activity. And this spot is perfect for it. You got the water hole here as an attraction, and also it's, just situated in this long meadow in this narrow strip of trees. I mean, it's just a perfect travel corridor between these two larger chunks of timber. If they'll just keep doing that, can very well end up getting a shot at a buck today from this spot. And especially on a really dry year like it's been this year, this water hole is money. I just got a text that my brother shot not only his antlerless deer, shot a big doe, but shot a buck as well. So he had a heck of a morning. So I'm going to pack all my stuff up there. I can't wait to get back there and celebrate with him. So now that's my dad, my brother, and my cousin have at least shot a deer. We've got 3 antlerless deer and a buck down.
No, it was an awesome morning.
Yeah, for sure.
Cold, frosty November morning.
So that's crazy. So you shot the doe first?
Yep, it was early, probably about 6:30.
You watched her fall?
Yep.
And then when did you see this guy?
Maybe about an hour later. I saw him bedded in some tall brome grass. After I saw 2 fawns come by, walk right in front of him pretty much. I could see his rack moving in the grass and watched him stay bedded for about an hour until he finally stood up. Until right away that both hind legs were injured and he could barely walk, pretty much bedded right back down. So we had to go, Dad and Ryan talked to a property owner just beyond the creek where I'm hunting.
Oh, okay.
And got permission to basically stage in case he did get up and trying to run off or something.
Yeah.
I walked up to about 15 yards or so and he stood up and I was able to get an arrow in him.
Did him a favor for sure.
I did.
I mean, that's whatever that was eventually caused some kind of partial paralysis with the other leg, and then he just couldn't.
Kind of seemed that
just
way.
Couldn't go anywhere. Like his whole hind end was all the muscles atrophied, and well, I'm glad you saw him and were able to shoot him because he obviously, I'm sure he's been like that for a while, and that's probably why he's so emaciated. Any hind leg injury usually manifests itself in the the opposite antler. And that would make sense because Ryan saw him last year with that right leg was bad.
Yep. Yeah, my first time hunting out of state.
Oh yeah, yeah,
This
for
is
sure.
My first experience hunting out of state.
Nice. So 3 out of 4 have filled at least one tag.
Yep.
I'm slacking.
Got a few
I need
days
to
left.
get after it. Huh. Well, good job.
Thank you.
That is really cool. You've shot a couple unique bucks this year.
That's right, I did, yeah.
All right, we're starting to get down to the wire here. Day 4 in South Dakota. We'll have maybe one more day or half a day after this, but got a fresh blanket of snow on the ground, bitter cold temperatures, wind chills are in the single digits today. And finally got the right wind to go into the spot that I'm probably most excited about, although I was real excited about the water hole. Almost got a shot at a buck yesterday. But the spot that I'm going into today is one that I'd actually scouted 2 days ago, and it was something that stuck out to me on the map. 2 real big ridges, there's a big saddle in the terrain there, and then just off of that saddle there's this little knob, and I actually bumped a buck that was bedded on that knob. But the good thing is, with the wind in my face and just moving slow through there, didn't spook him hard. He just got up, trotted off, and it just made perfect sense that a buck would bed there, especially on a southerly wind, that you'd have the wind coming over his back and then be able to look down into that valley that I was scouting my way through and see any danger, which of course he did, and it set up well for him. And I'm highly confident that that buck would come back in there and bed there again on a southerly wind. But once I get in there, I'm not going to mess around a whole lot with filming. It's going to be pretty much go time, because I think if a buck does come in there, he's going to be coming in cautiously, scanning and looking and making sure that the area is secure before he beds down in there. And honestly, I think if I see any deer today, it'll be one deer, and it's going to be a buck that I want to shoot.
noise he heard wasn't danger. He was obviously comfortable in here. What a crazy situation. Got in this buck's bedroom this morning. All of a sudden I looked up and there he was, 35 yards away. He kind of popped up in my blind spot. But in the position I was in, I couldn't get a shot. I tried to draw back and my upper limb was hitting a branch. So I hung my bow back up, lowered my tether, and then got a perfect opening to shoot through. Ranged him at 35 yards. And drew back, took my time aiming, and shot over his back. It looked like it was way over his back, like I totally missed it. I know he ducked some, I could tell that. But anyways, I guess thankfully it was a clean miss. He trotted 20 yards and looked back, and I just froze. And for the next half hour, it was a stare down as he tried to figure out what that noise was. And the good thing is, being in the saddle, I'm hidden behind the trunk of this tree, so I just completely froze. There was nothing he could see. He stood there for at least 20 to 30 minutes, and then relaxed, and bedded down, so I'm still in the game. I haven't been able to move from this position in 2 hours. He's bedded at eye level, looking in my direction. I've got the trunk of the tree to hide behind so I can make a little bit of movement every now and then. But for the most part, I'm stuck until he either looks completely away or gets up and makes a move. The wind chill's in the single digits and teens, and I haven't really been able to move to try to stay warm at all. I've just been frozen as he's bedded facing towards me. Just keep my fingers crossed that he gets up and comes down this way. Or maybe another deer comes through and he gets up to investigate, check it out. I just hope I get a shot at redemption here. But if not, this is an incredible sight to behold. This buck bedded in the fresh snow here in the Black Hills. Just incredible. It is 10:30 right now. The buck got up and just shifted 15 feet, looking down off to my right a little bit. And this has definitely been a test of grit today. Cold temperatures have finally starting to warm up, but for a long time there, for a good hour and a half, feet were freezing, hands were cold, because I just couldn't move. I've got to pee really bad, and my stomach is growling like crazy. Probably can hear it. But we'll see. But that'd be pretty dang sweet if I was able to get this buck. You know, it's possible he just gets up and walks by out of range or walks back over the ridge. But man, it'd be nice to get redemption after that miss. I can see his ears twitching really fast. So I've been using this time to swap out batteries in the GoPro and my microphone, stuff like that. It's 12:30 right now, so about 5.5 hours into this. Cold at times, hungry, gotta pee. Got all these distractions. I'm just trying to stay mentally prepared, physically prepared, because at any time he could get up and walk this way. Just like that, it's over. That's what I was afraid he was going to do. Just get up from his bed and just go back the same direction that he came in from this morning. When I could tell he wasn't coming this way, I let him get as far away as I could, starting to go down that ridge, and then I grunted at him. He did an about face, and I thought he was going to come right back to me, maybe come down this ridge. But it's just a tough calling situation when it's wide open like this. I tried to cast the sound like it was down behind me. That's also why I let him get as far away as possible to make it where, he couldn't see directly to where I was calling from. I got him to hang around another minute or two, then he just went down the ridge. Everything came together but the shot. That's part of bow hunting. You're gonna miss every now and then. But, it was a lot of fun. Just the entire process of coming up here and hunting with my family, getting permission, which wasn't easy, doing the map scouting on foot, setting up, observing from a distance and working my way in, and then coming into this spot that I looked at when I was map scouting, thinking that this would be an ideal spot for a buck to bed. And then ultimately I got an opportunity. Just whiffed. So even though there's 3 hours left to hunt, I'm just gonna get down. Now that that buck is gone, I'm just gonna get down and go try to pick something off going down to the alfalfa fields. So it's been an awesome trip. I've been in bucks these last 3 days and have had multiple opportunities. So what more can you ask for? Just look at this gorgeous snowy day in the Black Hills. Man, what an incredible scene here. South Dakota has definitely not disappointed. It's just been awesome spending time with my family up here. And I'm really thankful for the opportunity. It's been a lot of fun hunting this property. Again, really thankful to the landowners that allowed me access. So I really appreciate their generosity, and there's been no shortage of opportunities. And my pickiness cost me a buck a couple days ago, and then yesterday I whiffed on that buck that bedded down by me. So it's been, again, it's just been, I know I've said it 100 times, but it's been an amazing trip. And whether it would be turkey hunting, deer hunting, upland game, waterfowl, predator hunting, I would highly recommend a hunting trip to South Dakota.